I would like to introduce the one, the only me.
Hey, Squiddies! It is Dre from the Tattoo Squid podcast here with 69 Whiskey, which is one of the hosts is motorboating Mike, me. There's so many M's, I got it all mixed up. Because there's motorboating Matt Mish. I couldn't get the last name.
The impossible last name that almost nobody gets on the first try.
You're like mem. It's like Stewie. Like mom.
Exactly. So I got a couple of different names. Obviously, you can just call me Matt. There's Motorboating Matt, aka head advocate of the Big Titty Committee for everybody's so that everybody knows. And then you can just call me Mish, which is like a nickname with a play on my last name, which is like a Russian Ukrainian sort of thing. So that's which is why no one can fucking pronounce it properly. So either one of those works for me.
Yeah, there you go. So a fellow person that's from a different country, but you're not from a different country. Your parents were.
My grandparents were. Would be because we I don't think we started coming to the U.S. until like the early 1900s, 20th century, whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
They were immigrants. My grandma was, I think, Russian. Well, this is on my dad's side. My grandma was Russian. My great grandpa, who I never met because he had passed away beforehand, was Ukrainian. Obviously, they got together, had my dad, and that's why I'm here. So
that's how I was born. It's like, hey, but my dad's full Hungarian, and he came from Hungary, came off the boat, somewhat. That's what he says, and he met my mom through my grandmother, because my grandmother and my mom were working at the same work, which was a psychiatric hospital. And no, folks, I was not born in the psychiatric hospital. No.
I was going to say, if you were born in the psychiatric hospital, that might be probably one of the greatest birth stories of all time.
So, folks, I was born in a psychiatric hospital, and, but the way, and it kind of figure is the way my mindset is, like the way it is.
It's almost as like you were born in that hospital and no one told you. It's like, you were born in East Bumblefuck Hospital. And I'm just
you were born in Smithtown, New York. And I'm like, was it a psychiatric hospital? I was like, I don't know, because there's like stories how, there's always like some kind of stories where people are working at a psychiatric hospital and there's like weird happenings. Or even when it shuts down, and there's always weird stuff going on or something like that. And friends of mine, they were like, hey, your parents used to work in this area, right? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, it's shut down. There's security going, oh, we're just gonna take a look. And I'm like, all right, fine. So now the practical joker I am, and I'm like, all right, fuck it, let's see how this goes. Got my phone out, got the flashlight, going with my friends. Now my old friend, he's in the practical joke, so he knew what I was gonna fucking do.
But like, no one else did.
Well, it was just me, him, and his girlfriend.
Okay.
We were like, we just double teamed on her, so he knew, and she didn't. So she scares easily, even though she plays it off like she's the tough chick. So all of a sudden she's like, is anybody out there? Can you speak into the microphone? Ghost hunters and all that shit, right?
Yeah.
All of a sudden after we get in there, and there's like this boy, and I've been in the certain areas when I was younger. My dad was like in the one area where it's for like maintenance workers or something, and I'm like, oh, this shit, I remember this when, even though I was like 5, I remember like it's yesterday. And all of a sudden after I get my phone, and all of a sudden they're off in one side. I'm like, hey, what are you doing up there? And all of a sudden, ping, the girl fucking just jetted, and she's like, oh my God. But in the same process of her running, there's a window, and I shit you not, there is like I found out it was a father and his son walking through the woods behind the building, you know, like right behind where the window is. And
Yeah.
the guy has like the full like beard down to here. And I just saw him coming down, like, what the fuck?
Oh my God.
Holy shit. And then I seen the guy and I'm like, who are you? It's like, oh no, we live up on the hill over there. We always come down here just to look around and all that. I'm like, oh, okay. I thought you were a fucking ghost. And I don't get scared easily, but that is just the coincidence of that happening and that thing happening. We call it like through the window, and I'm like, you know,
man, that's funny. That's funny. I think the only time I've ever had something like that was when I was in middle school. In my 8th grade class trip, they gave us a trip to New York.
Yeah.
And I think it was like in the middle of the we were in like the Madame Tussauds Wax Museum or some shit, I think it was. So they had a haunted house over there, or like a haunted area for some reason that you can walk through and people would scare the shit out of you.
Oh yeah.
So it was only, for some reason, nobody went except me and my buddy, who was our buddy's mom, who was our chaperone. So we're walking around here, and all of a sudden, you know, there's just a bunch of creepy shit. Like I don't try to scare easily, but I don't like horror stuff because horror stuff just like creeps me the fuck out. You know, it gives me like those heebie-jeebies and shit.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's a dude following us making like a weird gurgling sound. I'm just like, oh, motherfucker, you better chill right now. I swear to God. And then like, as we're about to exit, there's a dude that comes out and like cracks a whip. And then the next thing you hear is, oh, fuck, I'm out of here. And the exit was right there. We just both darted out, and everybody's like, God damn, man, you actually fucking survived. I'm like, survived? You fucking kidding me? I nearly shit myself in there at the last second.
I almost got whipped. Yeah. and I love horror stuff, but the only thing, and I'll tell you, man, I'll tell you like a little secret about it. My thing is like when I watch like horror movies, I'm like, okay, fine, everything's good, yeah, and I don't get scared easily. But when I go to a haunted house, I'm like, what's that phrase that you oh, I forgot. It's like when somebody says they're not scared, but then when they go to like a haunted house,
they're
and they
shivering.
No. I mean, there was like a saying, a hypocrite. You know, they were like, oh, you know, you're being a hypocrite. I'm like, well, how is that? It's like, I like horror movies. I just don't like fucking getting scared myself. I just watch horror movies, and then I scare people, but just like, oh, you know, like that, not dressed up in an outfit with a chainsaw chasing after me. I'm like,
yeah,
I'll fucking punch you in your face, you know.
Now here's a question. What is your least favorite horror movie of all time? Or at least a horror movie that didn't scare you as much as you thought it would.
What was that one that there was one where everybody was talking about it and they were like, oh my God, it's so scary. And I'm like, no. What the fuck was it? It was called, it has a doctor's term. It starts with an M. Not malpractice. Oh God, it's like a movie. There's like a woman laying like this, and there's like some kind of spike, and Malignant.
Okay.
Yeah. So that one, everybody was saying, oh my God, it's like fucking scary as hell. And I'm like looking at it, I'm like, really? The person has a reverse fucking head? Really? That's scary. I'm like, basically, if you haven't seen the movie, and then you know,
I haven't seen the movie, but
well, I don't know if you are going to see it or not, but I don't want to spoil it for you. But there is like one part where, you know, the scary thing is not really scary. Let's just say, yeah. So
got it.
You look at it and you're like, really? You know, like, you know, a Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Okay, that's scary with the blood, you know, chainsaw and everything else, and then you got Friday the 13th and all that. That is like mayhem ensued, you know. And it's just the one thing that really I don't know if I can watch through it again still. Cujo.
I heard that one's pretty scary.
That's scary, but you know what? I'm like the dog lover, so I hate seeing that there is a dog. If I ever had a dog and it's big, and that dog is gonna come after me, and I can't do anything, but then I have to go and put him down, and I don't want to do. And it's like I think that was the scariest thing for me, basically.
See, the worst horror movie for me was a film that came out a couple of years ago. It was called Devil's Due. And I'm not going to get into the whole premise of the movie, but it's easily one of the worst movies I've ever watched in my life. And I expected it because we went to the movie theaters, me, my friend, and his family and shit. And because I'm friends with all his family. And we wanted to see, like, I think Ted 2 was coming out that day or something like that. Ted 2 was coming out. Instead, we watched this fucking Devil's Due movie because everybody wanted to see it. Everybody likes scary movies, but I'd rather laugh than fucking sit there shivering like a fucking like a little bitch. So as I'm watching the movie, and 10 minutes, 20, 30, so on minutes go by, I'm like, is this movie even going to be scary, or is this just bad plot line after bad plot line consistently? And the scariest part of the movie was just like a single jump scare where the person in question, I don't want to say too much because I don't know if anyone's ever seen the movie, but either way, it's so bad you probably don't want to see it, so I'll say it anyway. There was a bunch of kids, like teenagers, wandering around the woods, and they come across one of the main characters who's possessed now, I guess, so to speak, somehow, some way, through previous actions in the film. She's eating a dead deer, like raw, just like chomping down on that thing, like inner cave woman style and shit. So they're everyone's concerned. The teenagers are concerned for this woman, and everyone's like, "Oh fuck, what's happening?" And then she just hunts them down one by one. Like, that's the creepiest part of the movie, and it took like 45 to 50 minutes to even get to that point. I'm just like, man, you could have
put something else in there, or you could.
There were so many opportunities for the movie to be scary, and they just dropped the ball every single time. And I don't like I said, I don't like horror. I don't like scary movies. But if I'm going to see a scary movie, I want to be on the verge of fucking crying, like being scared, or like being freaked out to the point where I have to walk out or take a breather or something like. And horror movies don't fucking do that anymore if you really think about it. Like, I guess it depends on your tolerance too, but like. Yeah. I see more rehashes of the same ideas than like actual original ideas now when it comes to things like horror and shit.
Yeah, because there was like, and actually there's two movies that come to mind we got that is like not like with the question that you asked, like, oh, what's the worst horror movie that you thought was gonna be scary? There's two movies that are just horrible. Even to pronounce, and I watched it, and I'm like, you know what? You're saying it's horrible. I'm gonna watch it just to see how horrible it is. And I'm like, how do I get this hour and 15 minutes back? So there's one movie, which a friend of mine, we call it. She's on the SIP list, and I forget, Amanda, because she loves this movie. I'm like, this movie is called Rubber. And basically, it's a tire that kills people. And literally, when I say it kills people, apparently the tire has psychic abilities to make your head fucking explode. The tire just turns around, looks at you, and goes, and then next thing you know, your head explodes. I'm like, wait, what? Really? Okay. And then the tire comes up to this motel room. The door's fucking wide open, in the middle of nowhere. It's like Bates Motel. Here's the tire just looking into the motel room, and there's a woman getting out of the shower all naked and just sits there, and then turns and then sits. I'm like, what? My girlfriend just looked at me like, what is wrong? I'm like, I can't get this hour back.
Yeah, that sounds pretty bad. Like, the premise of that movie sounds like shit,
Yeah.
I thought like I thought movies like The Room were bad. I never seen The Room, but I heard it was like horrible.
Yeah.
It's like it's a cult favorite for some reason, but it's so horribly bad that like that's why people love it. This sounds worse than that, and I never thought I'd hear
I mean,
someone say that, and that being me.
I can be able to, I could sit there and like watch it probably again, but it's not a movie that I'm going to say that like, oh, you know, you should go and check this out. Nah, I'm like, you know, listen, I sat through it. I'm like, okay, she likes the movie. That's fine. You know, I'm like, I just can't see myself watching it like over and over again. If it comes back on, I'm like, okay, I'll just see how this goes. And then there was another one that I voluntarily say, okay, I'm going to watch this. And I actually did kind of like the movie though, but it's called something couch.
It's not The Casting Couch.
No. That's a wonderful porn movie, folks. Yeah.
It's a wonderful porn series.
Yeah, well, you know, the one, no, because I had a movie where it was just casting couch and Ron Jeremy was the star, and it was a casting couch nonetheless. But getting back to the thing, it was like something, not angry monster couch. I forgot what it's called, but it was like apparently the recliner that's fucking possessed. And a recliner.
Everything is possessed in every movie you watch. It's first the tire, now the couch.
Now the couch, but the couch was like it had a, you know, a nice premise kind of thing where the couch just sits there, you know, like this, whatever. And then where the cushions, you see those like those knots that's like, you know, in the middle, like two of them, they look like eyeballs, and it's just like they're just moving, looking at you, and the chair starts moving and looking, and then the chair comes back, and then all of a sudden, you know, the arms come like this, and then just starts dragging and throwing out the window. And then the one guy's like, what's going on? And he's looking out the window, and you see the chair. It looked like a reminiscence of you know, the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man and Ghostbusters, you know, just like looking up, going like this, and you know, and then here's the recliner just going like, you know. And I'm like, okay, but then all of a sudden they get, like you were saying, like there should have been some more stuff going into a movie that, you know, could be scary. They told the history of what happened with the chair. Like there was a guy that was into black magic, and then, you know, he wanted to be one with his girl, you know, for like eternity. And so he was in this couch, possessed into this couch, and apparently we call the girl that he finds has the essence of said girlfriend in there, but trying to bring it out. And then now they're like reborn or something, you know. So they come out of the couch, the woman that was there, her essence goes into the couch and is stuck in the couch. Yeah, it's like a void. The couch is like a void, I guess. It's pretty, I don't know, it's like hard to explain. You watch it and then it's like, okay, all right.
I think if I watched it, it would make a lot more sense. But I think I'm starting to pick up what you're putting down.
Yeah. But I mean, but for me, I'm like, I'm like, okay, I understand it now. We go, you know, that they trying to explain it pretty much at the, not the end, but you know, you're looking at like, okay, it's not that really crazy as it is, but just the beginning of watching the whole thing, because I was listening to Four Nerds by Nerds, and they're watching it while recording their podcast, and it's like, well, we're gonna watch this, and we're just gonna tell you what we see. It's like, well, there's a couch, and it's alive, and he's drinking whiskey, yeah, or something like that. You know, just going on, and I'm like,
hey, that couch is me.
Yeah, I'm like, hey, I thought that too. I slept there too. What the fuck, you know? So couch. Now I gotta find out where that couch thing is. But anyway, yeah. So that's like, you know. But there's always some great other like kind of horror movies that you can watch. But then, what other stuff are you like into? Now, I'm not saying you're into horror. Like you said, you're not really one for horror. What about action, comedy, or?
I actually really enjoy like historical pieces, if that makes sense. There's a YouTube channel that I watch, and they cover like I won't say the name of them, but like their whole spiel is they have to find the historical accuracy or inaccuracy of, timepiece films. For
Oh, okay.
instance, Goodfellas, Braveheart, The Patriot, just to name a few. And they would like research the historical aspects that were surrounding the movie and
Yeah.
seeing if any of this shit actually either happened or this is just Hollywood taking liberties and doing the things that they're doing. But so like historical movies I really enjoy. Like, what did I watch recently? I just watched what was it? It's a Russell Crowe film. It's like a naval type of a movie. It's called
Something in Commander.
yeah, Master and Commander. I watched
Yeah.
that. That was a good film. I mean, what else do I watch? What else? A movie I actually discovered through watching that YouTube channel was called the Death of Stalin. And that movie, I don't think it was supposed to be funny, but it's actually pretty fucking funny. It was actually pretty good. It's a pretty solid movie if you ever get the chance to watch that one. But like the old, I'm also a sucker for like the gangster movies and shit like that. I'm a big Scarface
Goodfellas.
fan. Goodfellas. Ray Liotta just passed away yesterday.
I know.
At
I
the
was
time
going
of
to
us
mention,
recording, and I've never. This week has been very tough for multiple reasons that I won't get into it because, that's not what we're here to talk about today. But like with everything that happened in Texas and shit. But then like you just have a bunch of beloved musicians and actors that all passed away yesterday. Ray Liotta, the guy from Depeche Mode.
Yeah, my girlfriend just told me about it. Like as soon as I walked in, I was like, "Shit, really?"
It's like everybody like this week just decided to just suck, and it really is. It's sad. Like things like that is sad. But like for me, Ray Liotta is like one of his work as Henry Hill is like, I'm not sure many people can match stuff like that. Like that whole movie, I don't give a fuck what anybody says. That whole movie is just a masterpiece, Goodfellas, in my opinion. There's so many quotable things and so many good scenes from that movie. Like, what is it? The scene in the beginning where, funny how am I funny with Joe Pesci and shit.
Yeah.
I'll laugh at that scene. I don't care how many times I've watched it. It still brings a smile and a chuckle to my face. It just makes me happy. And then like the scene later in the movie, where it's like, now go home and get your fucking shine box. And then the way Joe Pesci reacts is just priceless. But man, it sucks though, because once we lose guys like Joe Pesci, Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, it's like, God, that would just it would suck. And at this point, I just expect shit like that to happen. We had, actors like and comedians like Bob Saget pass away.
Yeah.
Gilbert Gottfried. Like these are guys that, like no one expected to die for a while. Everyone thinks everyone's going to live to old age, and then shit happens, and then you end up in the news somewhere. So it's just this. The last couple of years with celebrity deaths have just shown like our morality.
Yeah. It's like we call it like, was it a year? No, I think a couple years before the incident happened. I'm not gonna mention, the C word.
Yeah.
Because like we were just talking about, we don't want to get into that, so that's why I was trying not saying the word. But like almost like every fucking musician within like 1 week it'll be one musician and another, like on and on and on and on. I'm like, the fuck's going on here? Lemmy Kilmister.
Lemmy dying was a shame. I was one death I remember very fondly because the reason how I read it was very let's say odd. It's like the middle of the night one day, and me being me, I was gonna go beat off. I wanted to go to sleep, so I was gonna jerk off a little bit.
Yeah.
And as I'm looking to see like what's on the internet for me to jerk off too, I end up reading that what's his name? Vinny from Pantera. What was his name?
Oh, Vinnie Paul.
Vinnie Paul, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why I blanked out on that. I had it in my head a second ago, but Vinnie Paul dies. And if you know the whole story behind Pantera and what happened with Dimebag, and you're just like, man, the shit that guy had to go through to even have the balls to go out and perform again, because he was in a group with guys from Mudvayne and I think another band, and they were putting out some pretty solid music at the time. And it's like 2:00 in the morning, so I'm looking at this. I'm like, oh, you got to be fucking kidding me! Like I was genuinely upset. Like I teared up a little bit reading that news. I'm like, I don't want to jerk off now.
So let's give everybody, we call it the backstory of Vinnie Paul and all that, if they don't know.
Yeah. I'm
as
sure
a-
if they're metal fans, or at least metal fans would know, but like
yeah, but the
casual
ones that are
music
not
fans.
metal fans and just listening to this, we call it, so Vinnie Paul, Dimebag, which is Daryl Abbott, and Vinnie Abbott, we call it, so, or Vincent Abbott if you want to go. So Vinnie Paul is pretty much the whole name. They were in Pantera, then they went into Damage Plan. They also they played with David Allan Coe, which is a like renegade cowboy country singer, not the country cookie sheet country singer, but everything from whiskey to dope to whatever.
Yeah.
And he's your renegade, like behind the wall, snorting anything that goes like an Aussie kind of thing. Well, anyway, so Dimebag was playing with Damage Plan, Vinnie Paul's behind the drums. Said fan comes up on the stage, which was in the military of sorts. I don't know which brand. But he comes out there, he goes, "Oh, you're gonna be immortalized." Shoots him dead in the chest like three times or two times in the head. And Vinnie Paul is right behind the drum kit, sees this right in front of him, and sees his brother like dead from a guy shot, and the guy is shot as well through security or whoever was there. And for maybe 3 years, I think, he would be where I know I would have been doing as well, be in the bar drinking my liver until it's like yay fucking small.
Exactly.
And that's the only thing you can be able to do. I lost somebody. I had a different way of doing it. I drank, but I did this. I got tattooed, so that was like my therapy as it is. So fast forward to 3 years, he's in the bar having a pretty much a black tooth grin. Black tooth. Anyway, so that's how it is. If you ever follow Pantera and all that, that's what they drank and everything else. Chad Gray and I forgot the name. Well, anyway, two of the guys from Mudvayne, like you said, came up to him, was like, "Listen, we want you to play drums. We know you're in a bad place, but maybe this will get you out of your funk," and blah blah blah. So we got a band called Hell Yeah. Yeah, we made up, and it'll be great if you come along, and tutelage and everything else. It'll be awesome. And all they did was they wrote songs out. They did this, they did everything that a band would do, and they drank immensely through that whole thing. And then
as we expect rock and metal artists to do.
Yeah. And also when you have Vinnie Paul like right there in the tour bus with you, it's gonna be a melee of fucking drinks going around. Doesn't matter what it is. Oh, you're sleepy? Here you go. Or like that, like, you're awake now. Okay, let's go. And so and then they talk to the lead singer. Well, how much drinking do you do? He's like, pretty much a case a day. Maybe two. And then we get into the hard liquor. And it's just crazy. And then that's when you say that, and Vinnie Paul's right there. I'm like, yeah, well, there you go. Now you know. And I had the honor of, I didn't have the honor of meeting those two, but I had the honor of meeting Phil and Rex Brown from Pantera. So that was like, and pretty much it was like an out of body experience. So, because there was some shit going around that night. I think I was out of my body for a couple of times.
I think one of my buddies actually met Vinnie Paul once. He said he was the nicest guy ever.
Oh, yeah.
So when he died, it was a bummer.
Yeah,
I guess like other celebrity deaths that I would at least consider celebrity. I don't know about you. I'm not sure if you ever follow like professional wrestling at all. Is that something that you are?
I know wrestling of every sorts. So
very good. So I can have this conversation.
Yeah.
So for me, like when a wrestler dies, like a piece of me kind of dies too. Like I'm not sure if you remember back, what was it, during 2020 when what's his Shad Gaspard died,
Yeah, he
saving
saved
his
his
son.
son. Yeah.
Everybody was like on. I was checking the news like every couple hours to see if they had found him or anything, and I was expecting the worst, but I was obviously hoping for the best. And when they found his body, like I found out that morning,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, oh, I woke up and I turn on the news and I see, oh, we send our condolences to Shad's family. Like WWE tweeted it. I'm just like, oh, you got to be fucking kidding me. And I like teared up a little. I just woke up, like, and I checked my phone casually as I do every morning, and this pops up, and I'm like, oh, fuck off, man. That ruined my day. Scott Hall kind of bummed me out. That
Yeah,
death was a
because I
shame.
thought he was going to be like, because he did the whole thing with DDP.
Yeah,
It was Scott Hall and Jake the Snake, and Jake the Snake was like way worse, way fucking worse than Scott Hall could been. You know, it's like, you know, he was on mescaline, he was on when it's smack, you know, he was on every kind of drug you could think of, and his family life was just gone on the kilter.
exactly.
You
Yeah,
know, and then but he turned his shit around. Jake the Snake, I'm saying. And but then Scott Hall, you know, he had his moments, but you know, I think after certain things, you know, it he turned it around with DDP. And you know, DDP is like a lifesaver of sorts with other wrestlers too, just doing that whole thing. I don't know, there is like somebody that I think is trying to get better, and DDP I think is helping out, which I don't really know, I forgot who it was.
yeah. I don't know if I've heard anybody join DDP's ranks in a while, but
Yeah.
or else I would be able to tell you as well. But
Yeah.
the wrestling world should be thankful to have people like DDP, because let's think about it like this: if he wasn't around doing what he was doing, Scott Hall probably would have died much sooner than he did.
Oh yeah.
Jake the Snake probably would be dead already. Let's just be frank.
Yeah.
You know, it's wrestling business is a really tough thing, man. Back in those days, because I think now that sort of style of, you know, hitting the roads hard, drinking everything, snorting everything imaginable, who knows what other stuff they were doing as well. They you know, I think those times have more or less ended to an extent, or at least mostly. It's calmed down quite a bit. And I think a lot of people just want to chill. A lot of people just want to hang out when they travel the roads. And I guess that's a good thing now, you know. So I don't think we'll be seeing, I think we haven't seen the last of deaths like that with Scott Hall, you know, or people in that era. But we certainly won't hear after a while. I don't think we'll see it again for a very, very long time, if anything, unless it's like some sort of freak accident or some shit like that.
See, yours was Gaspar. We call it, hearing about it. Mine was Eddie Guerrero.
Oh,
because
see, I wasn't a fan back then. Started watching wrestling in 2010. So like I didn't know the impact of Eddie Guerrero. Obviously, years before there was the Owen Hart death. So like if you think about it like that,
the Blue Blazer thing.
Yeah, Owen Hart's death, or how should I say this? Eddie Guerrero's death was the Owen Hart death of fans in that day.
Oh yeah.
And I think wrestling fans today have probably had the Eddie Guerrero style tragedy probably 5 times over at this point, to an extent, depending on who you're a fan of and what style of wrestling you enjoy.
Dusty
Rhodes, Piper. Like they've had that style of tragedy 10 times over at this point. I think Shad Gaspard, I think, to me, given the emotional weight of the situation, I think hits a little bit harder than those, because as I said, you know, Dusty, as far as I knew, Dusty and Roddy were in good health. They just kind of died suddenly. Like that kind of happens. They were getting up there in age. It's expected to happen sooner rather than later, I guess.
Yeah.
But like Shad, you know, he literally put his own son before himself, and like that's like a heroic way to go out, man.
Oh, definitely. He got I think he got the Ultimate Warrior award. I think.
Oh yeah, Warrior too. I forgot about that. You mentioned it. Warrior dying was a shock too.
That was the strangest shit I ever seen, because he was on Raw, had like the self-made mask kind of thing on Raw. and then I think they had the Hall of Fame, and he died like before the Hall of Fame, I guess.
No, I think
Oh,
it
no,
was
it
it
was
was it was right after WrestleMania weekend. He died that Tuesday, or at least it was officially announced on that Tuesday,
Yeah.
right after Raw.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and the weirdest fucking thing ever, the weirdest fucking thing is the speech he gave, which is like he said, every man's heart one day will beat his last beat and breathe his last breath, and et cetera, et cetera. And he's saying like a lot of weird euphemisms that don't
Which he
really make
usually
sense.
Yeah.
They don't make a whole lot of fucking sense to modern day fans. But then when he dies, it's like, did he know he was going to die, or did he have a feeling, or something was wrong and he didn't tell anybody? Like, that is, it's insane. Like, that whole thing, I'll never be able to wrap my head around, because it's just one of those things, those coincidences that you just can't explain.
Yeah, I know. It's like my favorite wrestler. What's your favorite wrestler? Let's go that route.
Oh, that's an easy question.
Like now. Yeah.
Oh, now?
Like now, if you had to pick one for now, and then we'll talk about like what the favorite wrestler back then.
I guess that question is kind of the same, because my favorite wrestler is back to wrestling, and that wrestler was Edge.
Oh, okay.
So in a way, Edge is still my favorite wrestler, and he's still my favorite of all time, as long as I have been watching it.
Yeah. Mine is well, I could tell you right from here.
So, can't see it very well. Oh, is that Taker? Undertaker?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can tell. I can see it's a cross. Yeah, that's a nice tattoo.
It has like
too.
that symbol that he wears on his pants, and he has on the thing that goes above him, and
Taker's Hall of Fame speech was magical, man. That was like one of the most magical moments of WrestleMania weekend this year.
Yeah, it's just like, and I laugh because I heard some of it. I think I heard all of it, but I mean, I seen it on TikTok here and this and that and whatever. But you look at Undertaker, and now he's, folks, if you follow wrestling like I do, and like, like Matt does and all that, and it's like you seen a wrestler for so many years with their persona that they have, and it, and Undertaker was like the living dead person that you cannot kill. You cannot do it. And he's like taking souls and doing this and doing that. Then you hear him doing his speech and saying, I found God. And
that was the weirdest fucking thing to hear out of that entire speech. I'm like, you're a Christian?
I'm like,
you were literally the devil incarnate for like, God knows, for 30 years of your life.
And the we call it the devil's favorite demon is a mayor.
The devil's favorite demon is apparently a very intelligent man that got into politics. I mean, you would never think that's like the weird thing. That's why I kind of dislike social media now in case of the wrestling community, because you get to see these people for who they are, and it's like, not that it's a bad thing, but it's like, it's weird, it's like, I know you as this, and now you're this,
It's like, wow, he did this, and he should be working in a mortuary or somewhere, or or working with a blowtorch or something,
Yeah, exactly.
Like Kane would be working with fire, Undertaker would be the usher of the funeral service or something,
Yeah. It's also, the weird thing too is like looking up wrestlers' real names and shit. I used to do that for a while, for a period of time, like look up what wrestlers' real names are, and I'm just like,
it's just weird,
isn't it? Like, because it's so weird, because like, you don't look like your real name. You look like what your actual wrestling name is.
Yeah, it's like well, like Edge, for instance,
well, obviously that's just his name's not Edge. He has to have a real name.
No, his real name is Adam Copeland.
Yeah.
So, but they say it too, like when he goes and he can retires and everything else is like, well, Adam this and Adam that, and then there's like certain people that have like, oh, this is they have a first and last name in wrestling, but then when their real name comes up and it's like, oh, let's take Shawn Michaels, for instance. It's like, oh, Shawn Michaels, but his real name is Michael Hickenbottom, Hickenbottom or something like that. I'm like, well, wait, what? Huh?
Or to even expand on that and like say it's a modern day wrestler, Seth Rollins.
Yeah.
His name is like Daniel Lopez or something like that. I'm
Yeah.
like, it's like you don't even look Hispanic
Yeah.
for
Yeah, it's
like
you
to
don't
have
look
a
like a
name
Lopez.
like that.
And then there is wrestlers that do have their name being like Eddie Guerrero. That's like his real, name. And even we call it Undertaker, Mark Calloway. He used his real name in wrestling back, I think, in the Texas wrestling when he first started out.
Yeah, he had his real name for a little while.
Yeah. And and for folks that when you listen to this, Undertaker back in the day was going to do pro ball, which was pro basketball, and go to Japan and all that. And before he even thought about doing wrestling, and he just came about because he's like 6'11", 6'12".
Yeah, he's like stupidly tall.
Depending on what convenience store he's in,
Yeah.
he's so he was going to be a basketball player, and then there was a wrestler in WCW, Dan Spivey and Sid Vicious, which made the Twin Towers.
Mm-hmm.
And Dan Spivey did something, or he went a separate way. He broke away from Sid Vicious, so they need another person that can fit the mold. And here comes Undertaker, which was he had a different name. I forgot what it was, but they teamed up. It was awesome, the way it was. And then he went on his own, and wearing the biker thing, which is transitioned years later when he did the biker Undertaker
I like the American Badass Undertaker though.
Yeah.
People kind of shit on it, but like I actually really like that whole vibe because that's like actually who he is to an extent. Like he's a Texas biker guy, like he likes Harleys and shit. Like that was dope.
Yeah, it's like was it Chris Jericho? I think at the time when he was in WWE, he said because I got the DVD of Undertaker, shocker, so I got like the DVD, and it was like the life spanning of when he got into wrestling and to the point of like say the Mankind Hell in a Cell match, like that thing, and he brought up, and then Chris Jericho was like, Undertaker is like the Madonna of WWE. He's not like, he doesn't have big breasts or something, and he doesn't have blonde hair, but he changes with the time. He doesn't keep anything stale. He renews himself.
I think that's kind of the same thing Jericho did in that case. I mean, look at Jericho. He could have been doing the same shtick for many more years, especially like when he was doing like the list and shit, like the list of Jericho, like that. He could have done that for a couple more years, but he's smart enough to know that stuff gets old in wrestling after a while. And then he's doing his whole thing in AEW. I think he must have changed gimmicks like 3 or 4 times since he's gotten to that company.
Yeah, but then he did a Japan thing, and he did the
Painmaker.
The Painmaker, yeah, thank you. And I was like, oh shit, especially when he went against Nick Gage, which is like, he's like there's an organization called the Glass Ceiling wrestling organization, because that's all they dealt with like glass. So you're wrestling with glass.
Oh, that's what GCW used to stand for.
Yeah, okay. But now it's
Game Changer.
Game Changer Wrestling. That was like Glass Ceiling Wrestling, And I was like, I saw it for the first time, and I was like, wow. He's like shanking somebody with like one of those things. Like there's a big biker dude with a mohawk, kind of like mine right here, but
yeah.
And he's a big guy with more tattoos as it is, and he was like bleeding from head to toe, like his whole body and everything else. And I'm like, wow, just light bulbs,
those light tubes, yeah,
the line tube ones, and taped up like 4 in a row, and you just like,
Now let me ask you this, because I'm sure you know ECW way back in the day.
oh yeah,
Do you prefer, like, because I think GCW takes it a little bit farther to an extent. So, like, do you prefer like the ECW style of wrestling, or like what GCW has been doing these last couple of years?
well, I think I like ECW. ECW, if they could still have been doing what they've been doing to this day, even if the GCW was doing their thing. I think GCW itself is paying homage to ECW, but now we call it amped it up a notch or two.
Yeah, I think it's
so
definitely more of an amped up version of what
yeah, it's
ECW
more up
was.
to date version of what people want to see kind of now. But and then ECW is like they don't have like they won't do like the ECW in the past we would do everything from counterculture to because back then it was like videotapes. There was no internet.
Yeah.
There was like word of mouth everywhere. You calling here, calling there. Look what I just seen on pay-per-view, and they're calling their friends, and there was no like chat rooms and shit like that.
Or if there was, it was like in its infancy.
Yeah, it's like the starting out stage of the chat rooms just going about, and everybody was like, "Holy shit!" So, but then they were using chairs, they were using tables, dare I say, cheese graters, and Bubba Ray Dudley, we call it, made that like fucking famous. Every time he's in the ring, he brings out the cheese grater, and it doesn't really hurt that bad, especially when you put it on your nuts, when you have clothes on though. But
he sells it like a champ.
Yeah, oh yeah. He's just like, he's like, oh my god, and I was like, holy shit. But yeah, it's the way it is, and then how they just go about to like beating each other senseless for the lack of money that they're getting anyway. They were not getting like buku dollars like WWE is doing as it is. You're getting like $250 million a week or just to do 2 nights of wrestling or something. When ECW was just trying to get like $100 just from the promotion itself. So
I think they, I'm not sure. I think maybe Paul Heyman must have said this once or twice, but I'm not sure if they ever really broke a profit.
Nah, but to Paulie Dangerously, we call credit, and from what everybody else has been saying back then, that he was one for his word. So it was a handshake. It was no contract. It was a handshake. Typical, like, listen, my word on a handshake, you're gonna get your money, and they did, but it wasn't like on the date that they were gonna do it. It was more, maybe a year down the line when everything was getting, it's like you're in this promotion, it's gonna be hard to do, and you're gonna have to wait it out, like you do a regular job, it's a shit job. You gotta wait it out, and then the perks come in, and then the perks did come in, and then you got another company that wants you and gives you all the different money, and then you go and jump ship just to go to that one. Hence the Monday Night Wars. And that's how that one came about, because ECW was like smack dab in the middle.
Yeah, they're like the forgotten promotion in that case.
But then they try to revive it, in WWE, which I'm like, yeah, okay.
I think when they first had the idea, it was actually like relatively solid.
Yeah.
It was a solid idea. They had all the right tools, I think, to do it. And then they started like BSing it a little bit. They started bringing in these shitty characters, the things that ECW fans would have shit all over back in the day. At least the good news is like a couple of good wrestlers came out of it. I mean, we had CM Punk come in, and he
Yeah.
he started out in their version of ECW and all that stuff. Who's another one of my favorites. So like he wouldn't have had he had to jump through a couple of hoops to get to like the big time to where he was, but like, you know,
Yeah.
he started out in that third brand, so to speak.
Yeah. Which, and the way I see it, I think that ECW of WWE is pretty much the NXT of what WWE is now. You know, I mean, you got NXT now, and it's still like that third brand, so it's like it's replacing ECW.
I don't even think so at this point. I mean, I've watched NXT. I watched NXT for a lot since almost since it started. Like I maybe got into it a couple months to a year into its inception, but
Yeah.
and at first I wasn't super impressed, but then they started like really like amping it up, and the matches that they were having were like something you wouldn't typically see on regular Raw or SmackDown WWE television. And I'm like, oh wow, this is actually like really good stuff. The storytelling was good. The matches, like I said, were stellar. The feuds were great. And then they changed it all in the last year. And it's just, you know, it feels like the way I see it is NXT is essentially what it was when it first became a thing. And that was a developmental brand. It was to develop people who were either like no-name guys who wanted to get into wrestling, or athletes that wanted to get into wrestling, or people that had charisma but didn't know how to wrestle, and they obviously have to, so they have to train.
Yeah.
So there's like that. And then they had this thing where it was essentially WWE's indie promotion, for lack of better terms.
True.
And then they changed it all up, and now it's right back to where it started. It's just a bunch of characters. It's a bunch of people learning how to wrestle. And I'm not going to lie, sometimes it's tough to watch because it's just, you could tell that these people, these men and women, as hard working as they are, a lot of them are just not ready for TV. And that's the painful truth of what has happened to NXT over the last year or so. Even during the pandemic, you can tell the pandemic clearly killed all of NXT's momentum that it was building up to that point. And it's a real shame. You know, people will say, oh, AEW killed NXT. Well, no, the pandemic did that long before AEW was even starting to get a real foothold in the industry.
Yeah, because I think I you know, because I'm watching it, and I don't really watch. I mean, I watch wrestling. I watch it like on YouTube when it, you know, because I always miss out on the channels and all that. But NXT now, especially you got like certain people that were like the indie wrestlers and all that. I think they're trying to mold the newer ones, like how other people in WWE, like say the main roster, is trying to mold the ones that come up, and then whatever, you know, like Edge and AJ Styles and so forth and all that. And you know, but then you got like people like oh, I forgot the fucking, I'm not good with fucking names every time. I mean, you know, the guy that's like he should be like in like a farmland area, but he became he's the North American champion now.
Oh, Cameron Grimes.
Yeah.
But he was an indie guy. He was
he was
one of the few indie guys they kept.
Yeah.
Because they had him, and then they had what's his face? Carmelo Hayes, who he's in a feud with right now.
Yeah.
You know, Carmelo Hayes is fucking money. If they ever lose him, that is a fucking crime. That's all I'm gonna say. But you know, like those are like one of the few indie guys that they kept after releasing practically every big indie name that they had.
Yeah.
So,
well, let's talk about the releasings. You know, the budget cuts, as they call them. You know, which I don't even know if that's really what it is. It's just like they were just making, you know, more changes.
Well, I actually heard a couple of different opinions that I think make sense as to why this has been happening. And well, for one, obviously there's been a lot of NXT cuts, and I think that's just because either they're just not progressing wrestling wise the way they'd want them to at this point, or they just, you know, gave up on them and they don't think they're really going to make them any money. In that case, I think it's kind of shitty because everything takes time. You know, if you're in a new environment, if you're still trying to get the hang of things, like you're not going to get it overnight. And if you can't get it done in like a year or so, maybe I'd understand considering releasing them, but like a couple of months, even to give them, like, some people are getting released after a couple of months. And it's sad to see, because then they make all these life changes. They move all the way to Florida, and they leave their families and all that shit. It's sad. It's a real shame from that aspect of it.
Oh yeah, because then they have and WWE. All right, WWE, World Wrestling Entertainment, would go and do their thing, but I think they should not even try touching like indie wrestlers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, fine, like had Keith Lee came up in the main roster, and I'm like, oh, he's gonna be a fucking champion. He's gonna do this and this.
Keith Lee in NXT was so good.
Yeah,
and that one was such a dropped ball. Like I think they were giving him shitty gimmicks because they knew eventually that they were gonna fire him.
What about the old shitty gimmick for the old wrestler? My favorite one. Oh my god, Scarlett's his wife.
Yeah, Karrion Kross or Killer Kross. That one bumps me out.
I'm like, really? He did the whole fucking Road Warrior fucking shit. What the fuck was that about? I'm like, dude.
See, my problem when it comes to the main roster releases,
the
problem is, especially since a lot of them had just come up from NXT at that point, my problem with it is they're essentially getting rid of the future of the company. Because if you really think about it, if you compare WWE's roster from like 2 years ago to now, it's almost bare bones. They barely have any division. They barely have any mid card. They barely even have a women's division to cover 2 shows at this point, most of which have come from SmackDown that have left or have been fired for whatever reason. So it really is like, you really wonder, like, what is the end game here? I've heard opinions from everybody. Like, I have friends that are, insiders, for lack of better terms, and they think they know what's going on. Like, think about it like this. Did you hear about the Sasha and Naomi situation?
Yeah, they dropped the belts and
they basically walked out. Like, that's been wild to think about. So that's like another 2 women that are not probably going to be fired by the time they're eventually, if not sooner rather than later.
Well, Sasha Banks was in the beginning, I think before the pandemic, I think that it seemed like she was not going to come back, or she wasn't, like, she changed the name on Twitter.
There has been, I've heard instances with stuff with Sasha Banks where, she may or may not have thrown tantrums or have done things to protest decisions. I don't know. I didn't look too much into it at the time. Now I'm starting to like really look into it. To be honest with you, like, after because there's been a couple of sources that again claim to know what's going on, and I think seem pretty credible. It seems as though that I think they may have made the right decision, although I do think that decision at this point in time is going to eventually hurt WWE.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, outside of like, maybe 1 or 2 other women's stars, maybe 3, let's say that, Sasha's one of the biggest stars they have. Yeah. She probably has more she is one of the few women on that roster that has more mainstream appeal than, say, WWE can ever get, because she was a part of stuff like The Mandalorian. She's been a part of some other things. Like, at this point, WWE needs her. She doesn't really need WWE anymore.
Yeah.
I think it's starting to come to that point. And with the Naomi thing, well, that's just a tough loss to have, because she was probably one of the few really actually fucking good women's wrestlers that they had, that you can get invested in. So
I think but all right, with Sasha Banks, I could see because she is like the John Cena of like women's wrestling at some point.
There's a couple people that can lay claim to that, but she's definitely one of the people that can claim to be like the John Cena of the women's division there.
Yeah, because she gets I'm not gonna say perks, but she gets the pretty much like title shots. I think more than what the average bear would get, and also coming to like doing the movie or TV series or whatever, and then come back and then win a title or come back and do this, and you see it rarely. It's almost like a John Cena thing, with Roman Reigns. He's at a pinnacle of what he was he should have been a long time ago.
Yeah, they for so many years they dropped the ball on Roman Reigns, and it finally took a pandemic to make it right for them.
Pretty much, yeah. And then, but then also with the Usos, if Naomi gets canned as it is, which I mean, I know it's not going to be a factor because look at Aleister Black or Tommy End. He's married to the shorter one, which I'm folks. I know
Zelina Vega.
Yeah,
Zelina Vega.
I am a person of loves wrestling, but names always escape me. But yeah, Vega, and she's doing her thing in WWE, and he's doing his thing, which they're used to doing this whole, mixed bag of different promotions and working it out.
Even Charlotte Flair,
Yeah.
is doing the same thing too because she
With Andrade.
With Andrade. I think they're going to be getting married. They've either been married already or they'll be getting
Yeah.
married soon, which is why I haven't seen her on TV, I think. But
Yeah,
like,
that whole Ronda Rousey and all that, which I think Ronda Rousey is going to have the title, and then Charlotte Flair is probably just going to go like AWOL, probably.
who knows? Honestly, that has yet to be seen. I don't expect to see her on TV for a couple of weeks at this point.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's just like crazy how everything like, and then you got smoke and everybody's saying like, oh, every time somebody gets out of like WWE, they're gonna go to AEW and
nope. I hate when that's fucking brought up, and I'll tell you why. There are so many good fucking companies that maybe can't afford certain wrestlers, but they deserve to have like these wrestlers because they're good companies. For instance, look at Impact, or formerly known as TNA.
Yeah.
I actually think, in my opinion, depending on who you ask, I think Impact has probably put out some of the more consistently decent wrestling programs over the course of the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And then there's new companies out there like MLW. I've had the pleasure of seeing a couple of their events live.
Yeah.
I think MLW is fucking great. And I think even, what's his name? Killer Cross is going to be part of them for a little bit now.
Yeah.
So there's other companies than AEW out there. And I'm not for nothing. AEW's, it's all right. Like, it's not like the greatest thing I've ever seen. Like, they have moments in shows where that are like, oh my God, this might be the best match. This might be one of the best overall shows I've seen. But then there's a lot of misses in between those times. Like, there's a lot of times where it's hard for me to be invested into their TV because the way it's structured or the matches that they put out, it's just like, I don't give a shit. Like, there's times where Tony Khan would, he'll put out a match, or he'll have a show, and there'll be like 3 or 4 tag team matches on the show and like no singles feuds going on. And I'm just like, great, another tag team match that's going to be the same as all the others because all the wrestlers on that roster fucking wrestled the same. Like,
well, AEW to me is like it's the indie wrestlers company. That's what I think it is, because every person that's in there is somewhat of an indie wrestler at a certain point in time that they work. Look at Danielson. Look at Moxley. Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, Cody Rhodes too. He was in the indies, after WWE, for so many years, going to New Japan and doing all this stuff. Keith Lee, Luchasaurus, Jungle Boy.
And look, I'm happy for all of them that they have a place to be.
Yeah.
I just wish, like, if the company didn't have such like a massive indie stigma to it at this point, or like a former WWE guy stigma, I'd be just a little bit more invested into it. You know, like it's just, to me, AEW is nothing more than an indie wrestling company, a big scale indie wrestling company with just a massive budget. That's the vibe it gives off to me. And I've been to some AEW shows. I enjoy my time at AEW shows, and I enjoy, like I said, I enjoy some aspects of their programming, but I can't help but feel that when I watch these shows, it's like I get the same thing week to week. It's not like I'm being, impressed every so often. I'll be criticized and sued for that on social media because there's this tribalism going on in WWE. But in reality, I can watch any single company and enjoy myself. It's just I like other things more. I'm not saying I like WWE more than AEW, but like I just enjoy other companies more so than companies like that. Like I said, Impact's been consistently good, especially now over the last year or so. They've been really fucking good. And even MLW is a company I think is slept on more often than not. And I have even mentioned companies like New Japan and all the Japan-based companies.
That's like New Japan. I would love to see like on a primetime show wise channel, so that way I can be able to see it more and more, because it's a certain channel that I don't really know because I haven't really followed around on it. But New Japan, MLW, I fucking love, because there was the Samoan werewolf,
Jacob Fatu.
Yeah, Jacob Fatu.
Jacob, let me tell you something. I met this guy at the last show I went to for MLW, which was last year. He was actually hanging out with fans during a meet and greet. And I'm just like, I got the chance to speak to him, and he was the nicest fucking guy. Like I was over the moon.
Yeah,
he's one of my favorites on the roster. Like he is probably one of my favorites in MLW.
Yeah,
he was like, such a nice guy, and he's complete opposite of what he is on TV.
Oh,
he's that big angry Samoan dude.
Yeah, it's like I liked him when he was like a bad guy, like the heel, but then also when he's the baby face and all that, he's still fucking good. I love the way that he carries himself in there. Does the flips, for a guy his size, like a Rikishi size almost, doing flips and all that. I'm like, shit.
Yeah, the match he had with Alex Hammerstone when Hammerstone won the championship.
Yeah.
Whew, that was a hell of a match, man. That was a hell of a match.
And even Hammerstone, he brought himself up when the MJF was there with that other guy that likes to wear ear pods.
Richard Holiday.
Yeah. So Richard Holiday and Hammerstone are still like MLW, but then MJF like went on to AEW, and those guys they are still doing great, and then all the other stuff was going on with like the Von Erichs, which the name itself says it all, because there's been turmoil going on with, not turmoil like within the family, but there's always something going on.
Tragedy would probably be the better term.
Yeah,
that family is just mired in tragedy.
Yeah, it's like left and right. Like Lacey Von Erich. I mean, I heard like a podcast that they had Lacey Von Erich on there. Actually, no, it was a Stone Cold. The Stone Cold podcast, and he had Lacey Von Erich on, and I was like, wow, it's like some shit that goes on, and it was funny, and I'm gonna bring this up, and then we're gonna probably talk about like certain kind of songs, and then we're gonna call it a night a little bit.
Bye by me.
But have you seen this one thing on YouTube? There's a guy, and he interviews like any kind of celebrity, which it could be Scott Hall, could be Hornswoggle, Kevin Nash, whoever it is, Awesome Kong, and they would sit there, and he goes, all right, we're gonna play What's in the Bag.
Oh, is that the one dude that does the shoot interviews and stuff? He's in a suit and shit. He's like a tiny guy.
Yeah, he's a tiny guy. But
I know who you're talking. You shoot. Yeah. Is it the You Shoot guy? Is that his name? I don't know his actual name, but like I've seen those clips. Yeah.
Oh, those are fucking awesome. Like
It's
who's
either
a
him
hoe?
or I'm thinking of somebody else. But like,
No,
he's
you're thinking the right guy. He's like, oh, which one's a hoe? You know,
yeah, who's
or
the
which
hoe?
one's a dick bag, or which one's
Those are great. Yeah.
and then it was like, oh, what's in the bag? And I'm like, what's in the bag? When I first saw it, and folks, there's like, we're gonna get into something where it behind the scenes of wrestling stuff, stuff that happens and you don't see through the cookie cutter image that they portray on there, like on the road stuff, so it's like, oh, it pulled out like a big huge inflatable dildo. Oh, who comes to mind when I pulled this out, and they're like, Tammy Lynn Cinch, and then and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, and you have pills, and then they're going like this. It's like, that's pretty much anybody that's in the locker room. It's like, it's like you do this and you find out who's coming out from around the corner.
Or if you pull out like a, was it a steroid needle? It's like, what do you think of this?
Syringe.
Oh yeah, Hulk. That's my boy Hulk, brother.
Or like Hulk from the Legion of Doom or something, or whatever. But then Undertaker, his was like Jack Daniels. They'll pull a Jack Daniels bottle and they're like,
everybody would say Undertaker.
Yeah, we like Taker, and then they was like, what was the other thing they had? He had like one of those playable looking piece of shit, that you find like in a novelty store.
Yeah.
And he goes, and this, and he goes, what is that? Is that poo? That fucking, is that shit? He goes, oh, I don't know who plays with shit. I don't know. He's like, maybe the Sheik. I don't know. And it just goes on, and it's just the funniest shit ever. And then what was the one? They pulled out a joint and then they're like, Van Damme.
RVD.
And it was like, yeah, we could have figured that one out too. There's no problem. But they just go on and oh my God. So music wise, since we're on the subject of wrestling, what kind of music goes on with motorboating Matt?
So I'm very picky when it comes to my music. At the point of this recording, actually, this past weekend, myself and my co-host, we actually just saw a concert over in the South Jersey, Philly area, the MMRBQ, which is one of my favorite radio stations and someone I've actually interned for in the past. So basically, that lineup was fucking great. It was like a local band named Huxley. And then the one after that was another band, a female-led band called Lilith Czar. After that was Crowbot, which they were really good.
Oh, I've heard Crowbot, yeah.
Yeah, Crowbot's actually pretty solid.
Yeah.
And then, what was it? Low Cut Connie was the next one. And then Living Color after that.
Cult of Personality.
Yeah. Yeah, I got, that's my second favorite song of all time. Hearing that live was definitely one of the best days, one of the best moments of my life. But
and that's where CM Punk, was hanging out with them at one point as well.
Yeah, I wish I would have met Punk if he was there. But well, it's Royal Blood, who I actually don't like their music, but they put on a great fucking show. And then they had Pretty Reckless, and then they had Disturbed, and that was, those Disturbed and Pretty Reckless were the best sets of the night by far.
And funny with Pretty Reckless is like the same little girl on the Grinch, and she's grown up to be a fucking smoke show, is what she's done. Yeah, thank you for putting the words in there.
She is. Look, I said this on, we did an episode and we just released this episode. It's episode, if I may, I want to plug that really quick. Episode 67 was our, us discussing the MMRBQ. And I said this out loud, and I thought Lizzie Hale was my favorite female singer or frontwoman in rock. I think Taylor Momsen has just taken that award, because seeing her live, that she was fucking good.
Yeah.
They were really good, honestly.
Mine is the Butcher Babies.
I know of them. Yeah, I've heard them before. I haven't really kept up with them too much, but they were pretty solid when I was hearing them.
Yeah,
being
because
played.
when I used to get like heavy metal magazines where they were heavy metal magazines, I don't know where the fuck they are now. I'm like, like you're looking at Metal Edge magazine, which was the 80s hair metal magazine, but then you had there's a magazine called Hit Parader, and that had everything from different metal rock, like Lizzie Hale, Mumson would be in there probably, and everybody, that's like a rock or metal act as it is. And they had the Women of Rock section, and they had Butcher Babies in there. I first saw this, and yes, okay, I'm a guy. I seen it, I'm like, boobs. And then
I was gonna say, if I remember correctly, they are pretty hot.
yeah, but then I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, are they really metal, or are they just like, oh look, I'm just gonna pose right here and right next to the band, and I'm like, I don't know if they headbang, and then I seen videos, and I'm like, okay, the fucking, not scotch tape, but the duct tape, like on the nipples at one point, when they were playing and all that, they were playing fucking Hostile, from Pantera, at one point. And then now they were like a clean cut kind of version, but they still do heavy growl, music. I think they still have like an albums coming out or something. I don't know. But and I did not know you're from Jersey. It's like we should all go and hang out at a diner.
I enjoy a good diner every now and again.
Yeah,
I think the best diner, fun fact, the best diner I've ever been to is the one in Edison. There's one in Edison. It's called the Edison Diner. It's fucking fantastic. Portions are massive. Food's actually really fucking good and everything.
There's one we call it in Long Island, New York, where I'm at. They have there's a diner called the Oakney Diner, and this diner, you walk in there, it is displayed through every holiday. I mean, it's wall to wall decorated, and even it's still decorated even if there is no fucking holiday. They got like flowers all over the place, and it's just like you're walking in there, you're like, did I just go through a wormhole, or did I just follow the rabbit? And I'm like,
yeah,
where's the rabbit in this?
Yeah, diners are fucking great. I really love diners.
But
anyway, besides the point.
No. I mean, I'm fucking serious. I'm like, we should all, like, if we're in the tri-state area, like not tri-state area, but if we're in like the vicinity of, like, say, a Jersey, Long Island, New York, Pennsylvania, wherever, for podcasters, let's find a meeting place and agree to it, and then go there. Even if it's in like the desert or something. I
have an even better option. If we can't get a diner, get a bar, because at least there'll be drinks. And we're called 69 whiskey for a reason. I mean,
yeah, I know. But I'll be the squid. I'll just sit in the back and just watch you guys. We go and just drink away, and I'll have my iced tea.
Eric might hold his liquor more so than I would, but I would try. But anyway, back to music. Like metal is a big part of my life, and as well as the overall rock genre. I'm also, I may not seem like it because I look like a white bread type of guy, but I'm a big like old school hip hop guy. Like I'm talking like 90s gangster rap, Tupac, Biggie, if you want to throw out
Cypress Hill.
Cypress Hill, Wu-Tang, shit like that. Snoop Dogg. Who else? Like even NWA. Like I'll throw on NWA and start rapping along to that. Oh man! And like the only modern day, I guess you can call it modern day, rap I have is like anything before the year like 2013. I don't listen to much rap past that. In terms of now, because to me, and I hear this all the time because my brother listens to it, it's just not good. Like I just don't enjoy. I don't enjoy the beats. I don't enjoy the way these artists, project the lyrics, or like there's not really a whole lot of lyricism going around, if that makes sense.
No, it does make sense. I mean, because I listen, I don't really listen, but I mean, there's there's certain rappers that are out, and then you listen, and I'm like, the fuck? I'm like, what are they saying?
Yeah, some of the stuff is straight up trash, and maybe that's just me being closed minded to it all. Yeah. But like when you actually like listen to, let's for lack of better terms, good rap, like the rap of the eras I'm talking about, even like Eminem and shit. I'll throw him in there because he's obviously had an impact on the industry. Like when you listen to guys like that, and then you kind of listen to the stuff that's going on now, it's like, to me, it doesn't compare. Because at least if you're listening to like songs like "Fuck the Police" or something like that, and I'll use the quote from Straight Outta Compton, Ice Cube's line, or his son who was playing him. He said, "Their art is the reflection of their reality," and that's basically like songs like "Dope Man," songs like "Fuck the Police," like that stuff was going on. So it's like that is a reflection of their reality. When in the meantime, rappers now is more, they're either in their feelings, or they're talking about fucking bitches, smoking weed, and getting a lot of money. And there's songs that do that well too in the era of rap I'm talking about. But it's just like, how many times are you going to talk about fucking bitches and getting money and smoking blunts? I mean, how many different ways can you portray that? How are you actually going to catch me? And the whole whiny rap, pussy rap is not something is really a good alternative to that. You know what I mean?
I'm trying to remember what the one rap, which most of my friends that were like, oh my God, what? DOS Effects.
Yeah, I don't know them.
Oh yeah, it was like a more, I'm not gonna say Nigerian, but I'm not even sure, but they had like, it sounds like a Jamaican feel, but it's they go really fast. It's almost like an Onyx kind of thing. But and if I'm gonna throw out some names as well, we call like, there is Digital Underground, with the Humpty Dance and all that. That is a good fucking song. Love that one. And Crisscross. The two kids wearing the clothes backwards.
That was escaping me, I think, in this moment.
Yeah, they always had like the pants backwards, and they were always walking around. It was like a fashion craze back then and all that. So, but yeah, those two, we call it that coming to thing. But I mean, like in yours, like when you were talking about with the NWA, Ice Cube, Ice-T, fucking Public Enemy, KRS-One, and a rap group we call that is like in Long Island, New York, which is EPMD. And I met I met this guy. I don't know, one of them, I forgot the names were, but one of them, his son, I'm not saying was my best friend, but we were in Boy Scouts together, or Cub Scouts.
Okay.
So when I was little, that's how I met him, and I didn't know he was part of the rap group until I started listening to it, and I'm like, he was at the thing where, for the fucking Cub Scouts.
It's a small world, isn't it?
Yeah. But now we're getting towards the end, because I got like another podcast after this.
Am I holding you up? I apologize.
No, it's not even that. We covered a lot of shit though.
Yeah, we had a good time, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that you had a great time.
I had a good time. I appreciate you having me on, Squid. I really do.
Yeah, man, we could, anytime you want to come back on, we shoot more shit, and whatever, and just see what goes on, and even plan out a road trip to go to like some kind of bar, and I'll bring my own.
I was gonna say I'll order you the iced tea. Yeah. We'll have the Long Island iced tea. You'll have the regular one.
Yeah, I'll do the regular one. But if Jägermeister comes up, I'm not. I'm gonna do some, because I missed my Jaeger. Jaeger.
I'll keep that in mind. In mind.
He's like, listen, here, just try this. I'm like, okay, I can just have one, and that's it. Even though I'm on a wagon.
You never have just one.
I know, but especially when you're on like the wagon for like 4 or 5 years and all that, you're like, one's not gonna
Yeah, right. Then
Yeah.
one turns into two, two
Yeah,
turns into
two.
three.
Yeah.
and
And then 4 gets you 20.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, but tell everybody where. Actually, hold up. Tell everybody what 69 whiskey is first, because we've gone through a whole bunch of shit and we forgot to even mention, what your podcast is about.
You know what? I appreciate you bringing that up. So essentially, 69 whiskey in so many words is what we do is we essentially kind of talk about having a good time and doing it in safe manners. A lot of the things we talk about on the show involve sex, adult entertainment, BDSM, because that's what I know my co-host Eric is into.
I saw that on Twitter.
Oh yeah, it's pretty evident on Twitter that we're
I know,
always that there's always a meme I post or something.
66, and I'm like,
Oh, 66 is a wild episode.
Yeah.
But if you really want to hear some fucked up BDM stories, I recommend episode 30. But
get the 30.
Yeah, but yeah, we cover stuff like that. Obviously, there's drinking involved. The show is just really, like I said, all about having a good time. And depending on the topic, we'll talk about ways how to have fun safely.
Yeah.
As far as where the name came from, because I know that may be a question to some people. My co-host was part of the military for I think 4 or 5 years, Army branch.
Oh, Whiskey Bravo. Okay.
So essentially, 69 whiskey is a code name that they gave to the barracks rats, or as I call them, GIOs, basically the women that would come to the barracks and sleep with the soldiers and stuff like that. That is essentially what a 69 whiskey is, because in the Army, every job has a number and a letter.
Yeah.
So that's how my co-host Eric came up with that. And I never knew that until recently, because this show actually used to start off as this show started off on college radio.
Oh, nice.
Where it was heavily restricted by FCC violations because it is a legitimate radio station. So he started the show on college radio, and then back in 2020 we decided I brought up the idea to him that he should turn it into a podcast. I from there got involved, and we've been doing a pretty good job ever since. Yeah. And at the point of this recording, I'm not sure when this is going to go out, but we have 67 episodes uploaded that you can check out and enjoy. But I still recommend episode 30.
I'm going to check out episode 66 because it's kind of like the 666. Yeah. But I saw that, I was like, oh, and I want to bring up, because when I saw that, the thought of because I'm not really into that whole.
It's a very niche topic. A lot of people aren't into it, but the thing is like we kind of break it down, because I'm not into it either, but we kind of break it down in a way where it's like not only understandable from like a relationship aspect, and like how to do some of these things in a safe manner. But it's just like, you might hear something. It's like, you know what? I might try that one day.
Yeah. But then I saw a movie, and then the one reason was, you ever seen the movie Tomcats?
Oh crap! I don't know. I don't think I have.
All right, real fast, I'm going to tell you this one scene, and then we're going to go and you can tell everybody where they can find you at. Scene goes, Jerry O'Connell is in the movie. Goes, and he always wants to get laid in the movie, but he finds he's in the library for some fucking reason, and he sees this hot girl working at the library. Cookie cutter girl, whatever, prim and proper, whatever, it's like, oh, War of the Roses, I want to read this. And she's like, War of the Roses, that's my favorite book. And then goes on, and they have them talks, and then they go to her house, which is the picket fence, white house, everything else.
Typical suburban.
Yeah, suburban, like that. And then she walks in there, then all of a sudden they get to the bedroom, and she has all the stuffed animals and this and that and blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, oh, okay, all right, And then all of a sudden they start making out, and then she gets in this mood, and then she just like, oh, well, you might have to see a side of me. I don't really show that much. And all of a sudden the whole room turns into dominatrix central, where the walls revolve around, the chains come out. All of a sudden she ties him to the bed, and then the bed turns into like an altar, like he's like this. And then all of a sudden, here comes the grandma in latex. Yeah. Walking out like, hey, grandma, you ready to go? Okay, Sonny. And I'm like, what the fuck?
You be honestly though, like dominatrixes are very interesting women. I'm friends with one of them, and like she seems like a really sweet girl and stuff. And then you actually like hear some of the stuff she's done to dudes, and it's like, look, I'm not sure if I would be into that. I might be into some aspects of it, but maybe not all of it. But it's really crazy to see the transformation, so to say.
I gotta like find that like video clip and I'll send it to you.
Yeah, you got to send that to me. I got to watch that now.
Yeah, you're
I need
like,
to see that clip.
what? Because I showed it to my coworkers, and I'm like, this is the clip that I was telling you about, and they're all standing there like, and then one of the older guys that drives the truck and all that, he comes by and he looks and he goes, and he sees the grandma in latex. Oh no. And then he walks away. He goes, not Granny, no. But
the grandma is going to take you aback. But everything else in that scene that you're talking about, that doesn't faze me one bit at this point.
Yeah. So tell everybody where they can find you at, and then they can check out your merch and whatnot.
Of course. Well, we don't have any merch, unfortunately, yet, but where you can check out the 69 Whiskey Podcast. You can find us on an array of different podcasting platforms, including but not limited to Apple, Spotify, Google Podcast, Amazon, Pandora, TuneIn, our Buzzsprout hosting site, and so much more. If you name it, odds are we are on it. We also encourage feedback, positive or negative, on the show. And despite what you may think about us, we'll read the feedback on the show, because not only could it help us improve the show later on, but, if you say something nice about us, we want to give you a little bit of a shout out, because that's the type of people that we are. Also, on social media, you can find us on Twitter at 69 Whiskey Pod, Instagram, 69 Whiskey Podcast, Facebook, the letters RU 69 Whiskey. And for gaming content and more, you could find us on Twitch at 69 Whiskey. And you can look us up on YouTube as well, which I've been severely lacking on because I have no time to ever get content for that. 69 Whiskey you can just search us up on YouTube. If I may, I also want to plug some of my solo shit I got going on.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have a new podcast, me personally, that I'm starting up with some friends of mine. It's good. It's called the Bro Migos Podcast. We do have a Twitter that you can follow us on. 1 second while I pull that up. You can find the Bro Migos Podcast at Bro Migos Pod. And we hope at least I hope you enjoy that, because that's
spelled BRO
Pod. There's a couple of different Bro Migos out there, but none of them have lasted like 10 episodes. So we're just like, yeah, we're going to take the name. It's ours now, motherfucker. And you can also check out my own personal endeavors on YouTube and gaming. You can look up Edge0626 on Twitch and YouTube. And that's where you'll find me and my gaming shenanigans.
Edge0626. All right. And I'll we call it hit your subscribe on there.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. And then and the same with mine. Yeah. But yeah. And also you guys, you can follow me. Actually just go to Linktree, linktr.ee/Tattoo Squid Podcast. That's TA2SQUID podcast, all one word. Everything's on there from merch to YouTube to I do Twitch, but I've never really done Twitch. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you know what? I feel bad I haven't capitalized on it, because I tried doing it for on and off for a few years, and I finally got this $3,000 fucking computer that I can finally do it on, and I still haven't really had the chance to do it a whole lot. And I think now, very soon I'll start doing that again. Yeah, because I finally have a setup I can present that I'm happy with, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because I mean, I have the account. I have an account for Twitch, and it's Tattoo Squid Podcast, as it is. And I tried to do it like everybody else would do, but I think I had to do it on like a regular computer, I guess. Mm-hmm. The OBS kind of thing and whatnot. But I guess when I get when we get our place and all that, our new like home and all that, so I can get my own room and get everything situated. And
Pro tip: make sure you have good fucking Wi-Fi.
yeah, well, that's the thing. Yeah, that's what we're gonna try to do. If not, I'm just gonna do the old-fashioned way and take it from somebody else's.
Exactly.
So, it's like, listen, if friends of mine can do it, I can do it. But yes, so go follow 69 Whiskey, which is we call it, the term for barracks rats, or how they get the ladies of the night to come in to help them with their gear. Okay. But
that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, that's like trying to make it like it's somebody's like like kid is like listening, and it's like, what the hell are they talking about? And honestly, that'd be a great fucking episode art. On top of everything else, from Goodfellas to Ray Liotta, Bob Saget, Gilbert Gottfried,
Wrestling,
and mostly wrestling, and then in psychiatric wards.
Can't forget the psychiatric ward.
Yeah, and Master Commander.
We've come full circle.
Yeah, it's gonna be a barrage of stuff, folks. So yeah, check us out on Twitter. Go and Twitter community is, I mean, not the podcast community on Twitter is immense. I mean, I've never really been on Twitter that long. I mean, I've been on it for like maybe a year and a half now too, probably. And it's like so welcoming, when you do a podcast and you're out there and you put your shit out there and everybody retweets and you get noticed, and I'm glad that I have like I probably do have 3,000 followers, I think. Hold on.
Yeah, I think we're just about to hit the 2K hit stretch. But I guess my thing is, I take stuff like that with a grain of salt, because I thought for the longest time, it's like, man, I think we can be like the next Joe Rogan Experience with some of the shit we can talk about. Lo and behold, I got very humbled very quickly. But nonetheless, I have enjoyed the ride. Granted, I sometimes I wish the ride could be better, but it's always going to have its peaks and valleys, this podcasting endeavor.
Yeah.
And now I have a new show starting out soon with some other buddies. So that's something you all can look forward to.
Yeah. And then we could put that with the Fridays, Friday forwarding, or no, Fridays follows, the FF, that we do on Fridays, and tag all the podcasts. So go and follow if you haven't followed them. Click on it, follow them, listen to all their stuff, get their merch you want, and buy some shower curtains that I got.
Someone selling shower curtains?
Oh yeah, I got it. I got the shower curtains. I
gotta look this up now.
All right, go. Actually, good thing you brought that up. So go to Tattoo Squid Pod. So that's TA2. You might have to put this down. So TA2 SQUIDPOD.threadless.com. And it should be under
Threadless store. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so you go to there's like 5 different pictures if you see it. And then that was so then you'd look at I forgot what it's called, go to homes, I think it is. There's like home and
shower curtains. I see him.
Oh, there you go.
Hold on. Yeah. Oh my sweet Jesus. Oh my sweet Jesus. He's got shower curtains. That's a first. That is a I don't know. Wow. Not as bad as I thought. Only about $50-something.
Yeah.
Pretty solid deal. Get yourself some shower curtains. I'm totally not gonna hijack that idea. Wink, wink.
He doesn't have a Twitch though, people. He doesn't have a Twitch. Yeah. But we call it, there's like the shower curtains, there's bath mats, there's skateboards, You know, so you go and whatever you can fit something on there, you know, you put it on there, and you know, and please, and also, folks, if you get a shower curtain that's in my store and all that, fucking take a picture of it, put it on Twitter or Instagram, and tag me, because I want to see this shit. You know, I want to make sure that somebody has it. You know, because I know I'm gonna want to get one for myself. I don't know where, and you know, hopefully my girlfriend will let me put it up. But anyway, so all right, folks, let's, you know, we're gonna take it out of here for a bit, and I'm gonna got another podcast with wait, I forgot. Oh geez, I'm not good. Wicked Awesome. Wicked Awesome is next, and then the MacGyver podcast is tomorrow. So and everybody say well, not adios, but say we could, you know, thank you for being on the show, and you know, it was a pleasure meeting you.
Same, Squid. I really do appreciate the time today, man. It was a lot of fun. We have a lot more in common than I initially thought.
Yeah, me too. I was like, oh, whiskey. I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, I know I used to drink, and then I don't drink. But this is gonna be good. I can work it out, no problem. And then you said wrestling. I'm like, fuck yeah, I can do it.
Big wrestling fans on our show.
Yeah, there we go. So, you know, if I do get on there, because I think you had like a happy hour podcast, I think.
We haven't actually, you know what? Funny enough, we haven't had happy hour on, and that's a crime that we haven't, because I love talking to them on our DM chats and shit. So I have to get a hold of them at some point on the show.
Well, when you do get a hold of them, let me know, and I want to sit in and, you know, if possible. You know,
I will certainly see if I can work that out.
Yeah. So I'm not trying to swerve into that, you know, not a wrestling term, you know, but all right, folks, take it easy. It's Friday, and I'm going to talk to Matt a little bit and see that's what's going on. And yeah, that's it. So all right, folks, now let me find this one spot where I'm supposed to stop this sons of bitches. And here it is. All right, folks, take it easy. Have a good night.